Okay, welcome future viewers watching the replay. This will be our latest stream. We're taking the Ice Temple battle map we started yesterday, and we're bumping our microphone and we're going to color it in. Also trying a slightly different radio station this time, so we'll see if we like this music better. A couple of people have asked me to show how I import my scans into Photoshop. So I usually skip this step since it's super boring, but I'm going to run you through it this time. Let me just find where I put my scan. Okay, so this is the canvas we used to draw our draft on. If I boost the opacity here, you can see it clearly. Let me just quickly put a tweet out. Almost neglected to do that. It's okay, I just have to press the button and it's done. I'll also close down these stream windows so I'm not wasting bandwidth. Open up chat and we're officially rolling. Hey, S-Man Sam. Good to see you back. Right at the start of the stream. Good timing. So, we're importing. I'm just dragging in my scan file. Here it is. It's a little small, but we're going to upscale it a bit. And since we have the draft right underneath, I can pretty much reduce the opacity here and line it up, which it's pretty much already lined up perfectly. How about that? So the important bits, this one's important to get right since so much of it follows the grid very precisely. I'm going to enable that grid now with my little shortcut. You can see the edges of this platform just about almost precisely follow the grid, and the gates and all that jazz. I'm just giving it a once over, inspecting that everything's lined up well enough. Yeah, jetty lines up. This one too. None of it's perfect. We didn't like methodically follow a grid for this one because we still wanted to have some natural, interesting shapes. I think we can afford to downsize it just a tad. This is why I usually skip this step because it's a bitly. That's pretty good. Zooming in, we see that this platform is kind of the focus of the map, so we've got to make sure that's all lined up. The jetty does a good job. Everything, all of our play area is clearly defined on the grid. So, ready to go. I think we're going to work with this map almost entirely in this orientation. So I've got it here. I'm just going to zoom in. I see that, because we reduced the opacity, that's why the line out's kind of dull, obviously. Hey Egan, it's good to see some names from yesterday back just in time to see us begin finishing off this map. So the next step is I'm going to convert this scan layer into a color fill layer because I prefer it that way, and it lets me play around with the color of the scan. I don't always use a pure black for the lines. I'll often use a near black color like a purple or a blue or whatever's appropriate for the map. So this is fine and dandy. Before I converted it into the color fill layer, I usually reduce the opacity some because the process of converting it tends to up the darkness. So I kind of offset that by first changing the opacity down. And then we're going to go to channels. We're going to control left click the RGB, which will make a selection of all the white areas of our scan. Do keep in mind you only want your scan layer active for the step. Then we're going to invert that selection with a Control-Shift-I, and then we're just going to create a fill layer. And here's a good example. We wanted a blue map, like a blue line art, then we can change that to blue, or it can be red or green or any color we want, but we're going to keep it black while we color in, and later on we might play around with it. And then at this point I just delete that original thingo, and this is the point where we usually pick up the stream, where I have the line art all ready to go. So I'm going to disable, actually I'm going to keep the grid because we got some fixing up to do, namely this awful rectangle wannabe we have here. So I'm like swinging my head around in order to find my keyboard because it's hidden behind my tablet right now. Excuse me. So I'm going to transform this. Oh, I'm going to switch to the mask so we're playing with the right area. And then we're just going to monkey the corners into position. And we lose some quality in doing this, so it's, if you can get away with not doing much editing in Photoshop, always go with that route. But it is nice to have this option open. Now, what I should do actually, before I do that, I'm going to transform it into this kind of orientation, and then it'll make it easier because then I can skew the corners like so. I'm holding down Control as I move about these corners, and that lets us skew. And you can see we're, by doing so, fixing up our deformed square shape. And there we are. So a nice little peek behind the curtains. Very rarely does the line art work out the first time. Hey Imagination Studio, I'm using a Wacom Cintiq. I should really look it up because people ask this all the time, but I couldn't tell you the model other than it's a Wacom Cintiq, and it's probably nearing on 4 years old now. So those few steps, we've fixed up our central platform. We had a few other fix-ups we want to do. These runes on the door are out of place, so that's just a simple fiddling here. I wonder if we want them halfway. I guess halfway works. Maybe just a bit of rotation here. So if I undo what this did, and then I could toggle back and forth, you can see this looks much more natural, right? We're just going about all of these bits that are, the geometry is important, kind of the man-made structures. I'm trying to get them right. Whereas the nice thing about natural maps with snow and rocks and stuff is you don't have to bother about shapes too much, besides getting a nice composition. But these man-made structures have to be precise. Now I realized this part of the rune here and this part here, I intended them to be like the same size, so I'm going to downsize this portion here. So we're just doctoring our map, getting it precisely how we envisioned it. And we're not done yet. We're going to come in and clean up these lines too next. We're just working with broad strokes right now. Grid's kind of getting in the way, so I'll get rid of that. As we were drawing, we made little notes with these little X's where we had to come back and make edits. For example, here, we decided that the light was coming from bottom left of the canvas, so we need to remove this shadowy hatching here. And it's about time we jumped into editing the lines, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to explore the canvas and look for our little X's and other little notes for edits and go about fixing those. Now what I like to do actually with these edits is put a mask on the layer group containing the line art. What that means is we're not erasing the line art itself, but just erasing the mask. So I can erase all of this and then I can paint it back in if need be, which gives me a lot more freedom painting these areas. I don't have to monkey with my brush. I can just block that out and then color back the area that I want. I want that to look rather natural. So like here, I don't want this bit, but I also don't want to erase that bit. So there's a little hot tip. How's the audio today, everyone? Is the music too loud? Because I realized I was watching the replay of the last stream and there was basically no audio whatsoever, so I turned it up a bit. Perfect, good. Looks like our latency is well too, since really came back fast with that one. Solid levels, awesome. Yeah, we're trying a new radio station today, so we'll see how we feel about this music. The radio station is Calm, the Calm radio station. We'll see just how calm it is. So here's another little X, little note, as I decided to turn this from just a ridge into a seal, like a concrete seal, I guess, but magical concrete made of ice. Popping to the beat. This isn't a poppin' channel, so I want some nice calm ambient music, not dance music. These shapes are a little wonky, but I think that just adds to their character since they're going to be grooves in the ice. Let's whisk around, have a look at our runes. It all looks pretty good. Every now and then I'll see a little artifact from my scanner, like a little dust speck or a hair, and I'm just erasing that. This here we need to tidy up. And then I've changed my mind on some of the decisions I made yesterday. Erase a thing here. If I really needed to add something in, like if I forgot to put a rune on this side, then I can copy paste, or I can use the clone brush to draw that in. But I also try and be careful not to need to make any such edits at this stage. This icicle is really wonky, but not unforgivably so. One thing I did do after I ended yesterday's stream was I came in with my brush pen and thickened up this line denoting the edge of the platform, just to make it more clear where the edge of the platform is, where the edge of the, where we go from horizontal traversable terrain into fall to your death terrain. So seeing as it's an important edge to consider, I wanted to thicken it up, make it stand out. But the same thing with the crevasse, nice thick brush pen edge on there. And I did have this bit with the snow looked really odd, so there's another little note. Kind of makes no sense at all that the snow would be drooping down like a wet towel. Maybe we'll convert this into a shard of ice. Maybe this here actually would be a good place to demonstrate the, you know, like the next level doctoring of the canvas as we find the clone tool. So I'll just borrow this little area here. We want to be on the right layer first, and we want to be the right. You know, I've never actually used the clone tool with this brush. With a mask, I should say, before. I think it will work. It's a bit funky. But here we are, so we can work in a line here with a little bit of trouble. Oh, you know why that's not showing through? Because we hit it. There it is. So we kind of fixed up our missing line there. Maybe I'll get a diagonal line, maybe a secondary line to connect these two areas. Oh, thanks, Licount. Thanks for the kind words. Hey, welcome back, Owen Eli. Just finished a session using Woodside. Old Town turned skeletal. Dang, that sounds dangerous. And the Haunted Garden. Yeah, that's a good map for a skeletal encounter. And yeah, Richard comments from YouTube that the bold line really makes it pop. That's the goal. I wanted to use the brush pen very sparingly on this map, so mostly we use the fine liner, and then I just use the brush pen for stark elevation changes, kind of danger areas. And I like it so far, but when we've got all the color in, we'll see how it compares with my kind of usual method. We'll be able to compare it with last week's Jungle Temple, since that was very heavy on the line art, and this will be very heavy on the color art. You know what I'm going to do here is just turn that into a fading line. That'll do the trick. Yeah. Okay, so we might do some more work on the lines later, but we're at a point where we can safely jump in and start editing. Almost. I just want to get this rune right because it's so important. It's kind of front and center in the map. So it has to be correct. I just keep getting lost in my layers. Lost with my keyboard too. So let's see if I actually did anything there, if we step back and forth. See, I just saw that this part of the rune was a little bit skinny, so we gave it some more body, and now it looks much more balanced. Yeah, I do use a drawing tablet. I'm using a Wacom Cintiq right now. Oh, and you really don't have to after all you've done for us on Patreon, but I would appreciate it. Really our #1 fan, I think. I'm going to jump into the color layer now, and we're just going to block in some general areas. I think I'll start with the rocks. So, how's this webcam? It's alright. So, our rocks start over here. So last time we went with the very loose edges, because for reasons which I explained last stream. But this time we're going to experiment with very, oof, don't do that, Ross. Very defined edges. So we're going to go with a much more precise coloring style this stream, and it's going to take a little bit longer, but it'll achieve a different effect. Speaking of getting lost in Photoshop, I really have to organize these brushes someday. That's what I want. I want the default one, please. Not going to bother naming any of these layers because we're so far, because my keyboard's so far from my eyeballs, hidden behind the drawing tablet. But usually I like to keep things nice and organized. What am I doing here? That's a rock. So you can see we're going to very precisely follow these lines today. And what I like to do is just, this is basically what we did with the tokens. If any of you tuned in then, we are outlining it, and then we're going to use the fill tool to fill in the broad color blocks. And this is just such a relaxing step in the process. It doesn't require any thought, just requires you to follow the line. And it's so satisfying when you get to use the fill command and see it all come together. So I'm going to enable the grid temporarily to figure out the bottom stair. Okay, so this here is the bottom stair. And then the rest are wooden planks. We can also afford to cheat some if we're clever with our layers. Because if I keep this rock at the bottom layer, then I can just kind of seek out where it picks back up, which will be over here. And then we get to skip outlining all of this area here. Probably not the most interesting thing to watch on stream, but if it's relaxing for me, maybe it's relaxing for you too. Or you can try your best at dancing to this calm music. Yeah, I'm still running a game, though I haven't. The last session I ran was when we made that YouTube video for the rotating cylinder battle map. That was a real hit with my players. I think it'll be nice and memorable. I think the easiest way to make a session memorable is to come very close to killing one of them, because I definitely achieved that. So since I'm just doing busy work here, I may as well talk through that encounter. We had a very simple dungeon getting up to that encounter, but because I mixed in traps into the equation, the whole thing took like most of the session. As soon as you start using traps, your players go from like just the pace of the game slows down, which isn't a bad thing. It was fun, and the traps were, I think I got just the right level of dangerous, where they weren't deadly, but they were draining resources significantly. This is the fun bit, just boop. And that's our rocks. Of course, We still have to carve back into here. In fact, need to put the snow level underneath. But anyway, they got to the big rotating cylinder battle map, and I'd hinted that there was the big mum snake, fire snake eel creature guarding it, but they were still surprised when she popped her head up to surprise them. The druid was in spider form when they got there, and the bard still had his polymorph. Well, actually he was polymorphed already into a T-Rex, which they used to open the door. Took a big strength check. So when they kind of stumbled into the big cylindrical room as a spider and a T-Rex, you know, instantaneously I had to start improvising. But the little traps, the obstacles we put in the way served well. They got stuck in the glue more than once. They didn't break any eggs, but the big snake did a good job of biting them, draining their hit points. And in fact, almost managed to knock out the bard. My bard player didn't give us any hint that he was running low on hit points until he was in dire straits, because they managed to get through the cylinder okay, but literally the final jump to reach safety, Bard messed up his check and fell down a big hole that leads into lava. Lucky for him, there were like mechanical mechanisms and chains and all sorts of stuff dangling between the cylinder and the pool of lava. So I gave him a couple checks. He made 3 checks basically. He made a check to jump the gap, which he failed. He made a check, like a last chance check, to grab on to the ledge so he didn't fall, but he failed that too spectacularly. And then I gave him like the last chance check. I don't think you should kill a player without giving them at least 3 checks. Not with like an instant death, like falling into lava. So I gave him another check to grab onto a chain as he was falling, and he only just made that one. So where we left off the session, the druid made it to the other side, to safety, but our bard has fallen into the fiery pit and is dangling above the water, dangling above the lava, with the big fire-breathing snake looming over him. So it's going to be an interesting session next session, but I did give them clues on how to subdue the big snake during the session. There was a big mural painted into the mosaic of the dungeon, kind of the entry chamber to the dungeon, a big mural which had a picture of the drum that they're in the dungeon seeking, somebody playing the drum, and the drum was surrounded by sleeping snakes. So I think that's a pretty good hint that they need to play the drum to subdue the big snake that's looming over them. And they get like 3 weeks between sessions to figure that out, so I'm putting a lot of faith in them. I hope they figure it out. Otherwise, I'm not sure what chance the bard has, because I forgot to mention this part. In the process of falling to his doom, he also got bitten a few times as he was dangling on the chain, and hit 0 hit points. So he's literally at death's door right now, and another round, if another round passes, he's probably a goner. The reason he's not dead and drowning in lava is because we use a different death system in my game. You may have heard of it. It's the death and dismemberment table, where instead of making 3 death saves, instead of failing 3 death saves in order to die, Every time you're hit at 0 hit points, you roll on the table, and it can result in anything from losing an arm to a hand to an eyeball. But only rarely does it kill you. It usually just maims your character, which I think is much more interesting, and we've got some cool stories from that death table. So anyway, we rolled on the death table when he got struck by the snake, and he rolled really good. I think he rolled a 19. And when you roll well on the death table, you get like a surge of adrenaline, where it's an actual boon to your character. So he's still at 0 hit points, and if he's hit again, his luck's probably not going to last. But for now, he's alright. So that's the story of how last session went. Mechanical mechanisms, yeah. The extra mechanical type of mechanisms. Computer's speaking to me somehow. Oof. Egan, that's rough. Being dismembered and dying in one session? Ouch. Yeah. We used to have some interplayer conflict, like last year, but we sorted that out. It's just like a difference in play styles in my case, which was a rather simple thing. Yeah, and yeah, I guess I am quite a merciful DM. I guess that's kind of my rule of thumb, is that before I kill a player, before I instant kill a player, such as falling into lava, I think they deserve well, they usually fail the first check in order to get themselves into peril, and then I'll give them 2 more checks to, usually quite difficult checks, because they've already screwed up and they kind of deserve it. But 2 more checks in order to save their skin. And then the death and dismemberment table is pretty forgiving too. Like, I think you have to roll lower than a 5 in order to just die. But there's a lot of stuff on that table which could end your adventuring career. The same player that plays the Bard, he played a Paladin before, but that Paladin had a rough day once and made about 3 checks on the death table. And at the end of the session, he had like a crippled leg and had lost an eye and had a hideous scar across his face. So for us, characters don't die so much as they retire and become awesome NPCs, which I can use in the future, which I think is great. Although they do die. They do die too. They die a lot. Instant killer player. Yeah, maybe if they roll 3 ones in a row. Otherwise, I'll just stick with killing characters. Yeah, characters. Yeah, that's why I like the death and dismemberment table, because losing limbs for me is, I think that's like a cool little character development moment. I do throw in some instant loss kind of scenarios. For example, the party encountered an oasis last game where anything that enters the water comes out of the water turned to glass. So I gave them lots of hints as they were leading up to it that they don't want to touch the water, but they came really close to touching the water. They're in like a glass desert wasteland right now, so they're really thirsty. They didn't think to bring much water with them. And they very nearly just scooped it up and slurped it down, which would have been hilariously disastrous. But yeah, I gave them hints like A, no fish or any living thing in the water. That's a big danger sign, right? In an oasis especially. B, there was a sword at the bottom of the lake, rather easily visible, and it was visibly turned to glass. That's a big hint. And then C, when they investigated the water, perceived it. They could see it like a magical, sparkly effect swirling around inside. Oh, epic deaths are fun. Yeah. Okay, Owen, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one. Yeah, Dirty Push Broom, I highly recommend it. It's good fun. For one-shots, I like halving everyone's hit points and using the death and dismemberment table, because like for me, one-shots are a good opportunity to have a highly lethal game where we just get to roll on that death and dismemberment table all day long, which is awesome fun. Hey Greebles, yeah, we're on Twitch. Oh yeah, and the other hint I gave them was that the innkeeper in town had a glass hand. Nobody bothered to ask him why, how, but he had a glass hand. Oh, Egan, that's actually what they tried to do. My druid tried to retrieve the sword with his grappling hook. And when he reeled in the grappling hook, like the portion of the rope and the hook that had gone in the water was glass. And at that point they realized, do not touch the water. Oh, no worries, Queebles. I'm glad you're finding them useful. I'm trying to keep on talking about useful little art tips. Right now we're doing some mindless busy work. Not much to talk about, so we're just yammering on about other things. Oh, thanks. Speaking of the glass oasis pool, for some reason neither of my players thought to start dipping objects in to bring back to town and sell, because glass in my campaign setting is a huge commodity, like a easy way to get rich, because in my setting nobody knows how to make it except people in a faraway land. But they found a magic pool that turns anything into glass, and yet they didn't dip anything in there besides the grappling hook by accident. They did manage to retrieve the sword too, so like the bard has mage hand, so he just plucked that thing out after the druid wasted his grappling hook trying to do so. Oh yeah, sand is a bridge. That would have worked. Exactly, that's what I would have done, Weebles. At least like your rations, you could cherry pick some rations, so get like a nice cheese wedge, turn that into glass. It's very decorative, I guess. Or even just glass coins. Or they got all sorts of junk on them at this point, they're 8th level. And actually, I gave them a hint. I like kept hinting at it before they moved on. Like they hired a guide to guide them through this wasteland, since it's in a perpetual sandstorm, kind of like the Mad Max Fury Road sandstorm. So you have to, in order to enter this wasteland, you have to gear up, and you have to make really hard survival checks to navigate whatsoever. So they're never going to find this oasis again unless they roll super well. But like as they're leaving, the guide's just about to set it out right. He's like, "You're not going to dump anything in the water." And they're just like, "Nah, let's keep going. Let's push on. Find some shelter for the night." Yeah, there's spellcasting focus. That'd be sweet. Imagine that. You take the strings off your lute, dip the lute in, restring it. That's like a one of a kind lute. Not sure what the acoustics would be like, but okay, we've done our snow. I'm just going to jump straight into. Let's make a layer for construction. Yeah, Druidcraft, anything you can think of, right. I think they haven't realized it yet, but I think as soon as they, at some point they're gonna, this thought is gonna occur to them, that they missed out on a huge opportunity. But I wasn't about to tell them outright, The deep lore about this wasteland in my D&D setting is that, in ancient times, in the time before the campaign begun, some powerful wizard harnessed the volcano to imbue himself with immortal life, yada yada, and in doing so turned the entire surroundings into glass. So the terrain is all glass grass and glass trees and glass houses and glass people. And now, thousands of years later, it's like much of this glass has crumbled into tiny shards kicked up by the wind and whisked around by the storm. So in order to enter this wasteland, you need an enchanted breathing scarf, and you need like metal greaves for your legs to protect yourself from all the foliage that's razor sharp glass, and you need goggles to protect your eyeballs from glass kicked up by the wind, and like treasure hunters go into this wasteland to collect glass novelties. Like they'll loot the houses that were petrified in glass all those years ago to find little glass spoons and glass trinkets that they can sell in the city far away. So the players know this. They went in there knowing we need to keep an eye out for little glass trinkets and stuff that we can sell when we go home. And so far they've found like some glass birds and they have a glass rose, I think, a couple of odds and ends, but they found the literal glass pool of like the golden goose of the glass wasteland, and they squandered it. Yeah, Gweebles, if they're smart, they'll go back, but like the lore is that this magical storm swirling around the volcano, kind of shifts the terrain and confuses navigation. Can't navigate by stars, and the compasses don't work. So literally the only way for them to find it is to get lucky on my D20 table that I built for this place. If they were smart, they'd be like leaving a little breadcrumb trail that they could follow back, but it's a bit late for that. Like a lot of the other adventurers which go in there, the non-player character ones, they buy a big pot of paint first, and they just leave a little trail of paint behind them as they explore. And then when it comes time to return home, they follow the paint trail back. So at like the town gate, at the edge of the wasteland, there's all these paint trails branching off in different directions. And then the other thing, the reason this whole place isn't looted and fully explored yet, is because many of the old citizens of this place that were glassed when the big magical spell happened, they're still sentient and walking around, and they're kind of like vengeful spirits. They're also turned to glass, so they're immune to cutting and stabbing damage, but vulnerable to bludgeoning damage. But yeah, they're quite formidable. They've got like their katanas are also turned to glass, and we kind of play with them as, what's it called? A keen blade? The one that crits on a 19 and 20 and has a chance to behead you. I have all the rules written down somewhere. Find the path? Is that a spell? I'm not sure. They have a guide with them, and he's navigating by... Well, they think he's navigating, but really he's just tending. It's actually I wonder if my players are watching now. If any of my players are watching now, you all need to tab away, close the stream, because I'm gonna talk about spoilers. But the guide they have with them now is actually the person they're looking for in the wasteland. Great twist. They're looking for an ancient dragon, and in this setting, dragons basically exclusively take on human forms when they're not engaged in battle. And they're looking for an ancient woman dragon, so they're expecting to find an ancient woman. But dragons can shapeshift into any form they want, so this dragon is kind of hiding in plain sight as a guide, as a dude, and with kind of the purpose of judging the character of whoever enters the wasteland, or it's her wasteland, and if they're found wanting, then she'll lure them to their doom. But so far the characters are being lawful good. They're being somewhere on the good spectrum, so she's friendly with them. But she's like magically navigating the wastelands, so there's no paint trail that they can follow home. Yeah, so when they entered the dungeon to find the drum, they left the guide outside. He just said, "You're not paying me enough to go in there, I'll wait out here. I'll wait 3 days, and if you haven't returned, I'll take off." But when the big snake's dealt with and they have the drum in their possession, they're going to turn around and he's going to be standing there, and then he's going to reveal himself as the dragon they're looking for. So hopefully the bard survives to witness that. How's this? We're moving along. This is our magically crafted ice platform, set amidst the natural rock cliff. Ooh, excuse me. Bards are good at surviving, yeah. I think I overheard that he has one casting of his polymorph spell left, so he's probably got a better chance that I'm giving him credit for. Plus, if our druid character can figure it out, all the hints I've been dropping, all he needs to do is turn around, bang on the drum, and instantaneously he's going to have the giant fire snake enchanted, or charmed, I mean. And if he keeps banging on it, then it'll go to sleep and there'll be no threat left. Just needs to... I told them that the hint to surviving this encounter was previously in the dungeon, so if they think it through, they're going to think of the mosaic. And the mosaic was depicting a bunch of fire snakes surrounding a drum, all of them asleep. So the hints are there, all the stuff's there. Just hoping they figure it out. Yeah. When they entered the battlefield, he was already polymorphed as a T-Rex, and you know, he went head to head with the fire snake for a few rounds until he lost concentration. So it's a reliable form. But he's also got giant eagle form, which is good for getting out of pits of lava. We all learned that from Lord of the Rings. And or he could go for something small, like a little spider. We got 13 viewers right now. I think that's like way up there in terms of my average. Welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Definitely not doing this the most efficient way. Kind of like most of my brain has been committed to talking, and only a portion of it has been committed to painting. So let's swap those two things around now. I'm blocking in the general wooden layer now. It's still early in the day, but my voice is already getting a bit scratchy. Hey Okami Goddess, welcome back. I'm excited for this map too. I really hope I can pull off the semi-transparent glass ice kind of look. If I can do that, then it's going to be killer, I think. And I've done it once before. I was quite happy with how the white dragon layer came out. That had some semi-transparent lake ice beneath it. But the actual icy fun stuff will come in a half hour or so. I'm still blocking in these general color layers. I'm going for a much more precise, following the edges kind of style today. Deciding that this little nook here, that's going to be snow. So if you all get lost on my canvas, just take a peek over here and you can kind of see with the red square what we're working on. I know I tend to zoom in just a tad too much, or it becomes a bit confusing what you're looking at. Oh, it's a bit chilly today. Yeah, thanks Squeebles. That's pretty much it. We're going to use the crystal method. But there's some days where I guess, have a bad day and can't pull off what I'm intending to pull off, so here's hoping. If not, I might put this map aside and come back to it another day, work on something else today. But feeling good about it right now. We'll put our boats on this layer too. This might be the best boat of the lot. Some of these boats are really wonky. Let's have a look around. Oh, this one's pretty clean. That makes a lot of sense. But this one was pretty wonky. It's also got a rudder, and I'm still not sure if rowboats have rudders. Kind of like this. Is that even a rudder, or am I just using the wrong word entirely? Yeah, the chilliness, I'm just getting into the atmosphere of the map. S-Man Sam has it right. So this has like a snowbank riding up the side of this rowboat. So I put this little follow a goal widget on the screen, but I haven't checked to make sure it's working. Let me see if anything's changed. It says, yeah, it looks good. 262, it wasn't 262 before. And I see, thanks for the follow. Oh, Gweebles, thanks for the follow. And thanks for the follow, Dirty Push Broomer. And Nobrin too, thanks. I should pay some attention to this live feed that I have up here. Yeah, thanks Aaron as well. Thanks for the subscription, Owen. I know you've left now, but I neglected to... I didn't notice when it happened. I'm so sorry. Some of the little audio cues work by default for, like if you send in bits, I get a little bing. But there's like no audio cue for subscriptions, which I think is odd. But I'll have to install one at some point. We're still in like major crunch mode, so we can get this map and one other map done before the end of the month. And then finally next month I'll have some time to really jazz up this stream. Everything's really basic right now, but I want to get some more appropriate music and like a nice little theme. I want to make all these widgets on screen better match the look of my website. Kind of the brand identity, sort of. And I want to get like be right back screens for when I need to visit the toilet. Right now, if I click my be right back screen, this is what you see. Ooh, exciting. And I want to get the credits working. There's a whole big list of stuff, which I'm excited to work on. Just don't have any time yet. But it's looking like we're going to do it. Today is Wednesday here in Australia, and I have until the end of Friday to get this map done, get another map done from start to finish, and also get the tokens packaged up and out to the patrons. And the token editor will probably be a next month project, getting that, like the version 1, out. I will at least get out the pre-colored token pack with the promise that I'm working on the token editor. It's so close to completion, it just needs some CSS tweaks so that works on mobile. And then, you know, I just have to upload it and it's good to go. But just like the Twitch stream, don't have time just yet. Hey Emily B, welcome to the stream. The void. Yeah. You may see the void again soon. I've been drinking a lot of coffee. But I did upgrade my microphone. Maybe you could tell a difference. Even if you can't, this microphone's so much more convenient than what I had before. So that was a good decision, I think. It did feel odd spending $150 on a microphone for a stream that's only made $12 so far. But from now on, the plan is whatever we make from subscriptions or bits, we're gonna use to jazz up the stream with better music and lighting effects. Not lighting effects, but like a light perhaps somewhere over here so that I'm not so much in the shadow. That exposure does look a bit odd. Why am I so pink? I got one of the good old Blue Yetis weebles. It's the old faithful Blue Yeti that I hear so much about. I think I am just pink. I was out in the sun yesterday. Excuse me while I make sure this camera's set right. Just boost the brightness a bit. Should be right, mate. And don't do that, Ross. Or like a microphone arm would be a nice thing. Right now, you all can hear it when I bump my desk, because the old microphone is just sitting on the desk. Or like something to fix all this noise. Well, the chair's kind of behaving itself today, so not bad. But basically the stream's its own little self-contained side project. And it'll grow as it grows. So it's fun having a little side project that doesn't impede upon my other work. Besides like sending out a little tweet and Facebook message, streaming just means starting up Streamlabs before I start working and hitting record, though it's a little more work to record the hand cam when I'm physically drawing, that whole overhead setup. But even that, maybe I can get a dedicated webcam or something for that so I don't have to set it up and rip it down every day. We're going to do our ice layer next. It's going to be orange ice to begin with, just because we need a nice contrast in color so we can follow our lines precisely. So we can take a shortcut here. Yeah, the mic arms are pretty cheap. That's probably going to be our first purchase because we're closing in on $20. So it'll be an exciting little event. Just say that the stream's paid for a microphone arm. Then I'm just not digging this music, so I think I'll look at other kind of music suppliers, radio stations / subscriptions, see what we can find. This little artifact on my line art here. Bye. Can do things like song request. Is that with Pretzel Rocks, Venlin? Welcome to the stream, by the way. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, you can probably see the old tripod set up right there on the webcam. I don't take the tripod down, which looks rather odd when we have visitors. But the webcam is the same one I'm using right now, so I have to unwrap that every time I want to switch from computer to physical drawing. And then setting up it uses a different microphone too, because I only have one USB port. It's a bit of a process, but Yeah, it's nothing too serious. Okay. Song request. I'll just have to Google that, I think, and then I'll look into it. I know Pretzel Rocks does have a song request little tool, but I'm not sure how big this library is. I've got a free 15-day trial of Pretzel Rocks, and I just set it to the calm music station, and I've been letting it play in the background. That's what you're listening to now. Speaking of, can you all hear the music? Because like the last stream, I neglected to turn it up loud enough to hear, so it was kind of just for me to listen to. Okay, cool. Awesome. Pretzel Rocks does boast that if you use the like and dislike feature enough, it will kind of learn your music taste. So I've been liking the ones that stand out to me, and then the ones that I can't stand I've been disliking. Mostly I just let it play though. Still painting in our yellow snow. Okay. Uses the YouTube library. It's not a lot that I adore on the YouTube library, but maybe it's better. Like my personal preference when I'm drawing alone and I don't have to worry about copyrights and getting my videos taken down, I just listen to that lo-fi study beats, I think it's called, stream on YouTube. So like, I don't know how many requests they get, but it'd be nice if I could just get permission from them. I know they use a bunch of artists' music and they give them credit on a web page or a Google document. Maybe if I can figure some way out to credit the artists, maybe I could play that. What we're going to do is we're going to fill this whole area in, and we're kind of cut out the snow from it. There's our ice, our yellow ice lake. You can see the general composition of everything kind of coming together. And it's not bad, not bad. Yeah, the snow, the general line made by the snow is kind of too straight for my liking, but we're going to break it up later with shadows, so it might improve over time. But for now, we're still isolating color blocks. Thanks, Partially Spooky. Grievals, I don't really have a stream schedule yet. I just kind of stream whenever I happen to be working. Right now is usually when I start streaming. In fact, I tend to work in the afternoon after I take all morning to get a late lunch and have coffee and do a bit of cleaning up around the house, get the chores out the way, and then finally I get to the actual work portion of the day around 3 p.m, which is what it is here. But occasionally I'll start earlier, such as today. But I think right now is the most reliable time. And in the future, when I start learning my own schedule, maybe then I'll make some more official stream schedule. Yeah, I'm very privileged to have such a casual morning. I'm well aware of it. But I do plan on streaming every day for at least like 10 minutes. If I don't plan on doing any drawing in a day, I'll stream just long enough to make a quick YouTube tutorial. Like one of those ones I have on how to draw trees or dungeons. I'll just make a little 10-minute lesson video for the replay list on Twitch and for the DM's drawing guide on YouTube. But most days I'm working on some project like this ice temple, and I'll put in a good hour to 4. I think the jungle temple we painted for 4 hours, so it'll be interesting to compare this one with the jungle temple. How long have we been streaming today? Still not sure where to look on my screen to learn that. Is it beneath my microphone? No. Midnight Squad. Yeah. Yeah, I do like starting earlier because I know from my website analytics that the vast majority of our 2-minute tabletop map users are from US. So I am keeping all of you in mind, trust me. Plus, I kind of prefer getting the work done in the morning and then having the rest of the day to relax. As relaxing as this is. Okay, it looks like we've got our vague color blocks in. Now we're going to add some secondary color blocks. So I'm converting these big color blocks into groups. If you're watching down in the corner here. And then within the group, I'm going to add like a secondary ice color. And it's going to be green for now. And I'm going to use this for the trimming and possibly the runes, we'll see. And the reason I put them in groups like this is so that I can stop worrying so much about the lines. Like if I'm painting this bit, I can just scribble and it won't exit the color group. So kind of half the work's already done. But I think, let's just grab a bigger brush that's like almost big enough and color these in. Now I know that in the future this color is going to be very similar to this color. So if I do slip outside the line just a bit, it's not going to be a train smash. So this will be much less strict than what we've been doing until now. Kind of like our fluorescent temple. Hey Pyro Knight, thanks for tuning in. That's okay, you missed the most boring part. We're gonna jump into light and shadow very soon. We've just got a little bit more blocking to do. Now another thing to add to the shopping list is stand for this drawing tablet. It's just a bit too low right now and I start to feel it in my neck after a few hours. You can probably see on the webcam my head's rather downward focused. And the chair's as low as it can go. Oh, no it's not, it goes a little lower. But this is kind of the lowest it goes. Oh, uptime. Okay. No bots. Yeah, sorry, Venlin. This stream's much too new to have any bots attached. One of these days, like next month. I wanna dedicate a lot of time to getting the stream, getting all the bells and whistles working. We've got some simplistic widgets on screen, but even those I want to play with the style. I want to make like all these widgets, here they are, all these widgets look similar to a character sheet, like the 5th edition character sheet. So like my head, my webcam will be in a little bordered window that resembles something on your character sheet. And then all these little statistics, sorry, it's on this side. All these little bits and pieces will have the same kind of aesthetic. I think that'll be fun. And then as soon as you tune in, you'll be able to tell this is a D&D live stream. Yeah, I'm gonna steal a lot of the graphic design, but it's going to be like a very general aesthetic, I think. It won't be precisely torn out of the PDFs, though it may start out that way. Shortcuts are nice. I'll have to look into the legalities of that. I'm pretty sure that's trademarked, isn't it? Pyronai is on YouTube, so I'll just read his comments out. He's heard that Patreon is changing some of their rules or something. And have I heard about it? I heard about them changing to more of a subscription model. I haven't read deeply into it because I also read it's kind of front and center in their emails that existing creators won't see any changes unless they opt in or opt out or whatever. So I'm trusting that my Patreon will stay exactly the same. But maybe what I'm talking about is different to what you're talking about. I'm not sure. I'm a little bit out of the loop on just about everything because I've been crunching maps this week. Like this morning was the first time I've answered my emails in a few days. So I'm a bit behind on the news cycle. But if it's more serious, more dire than that, then please let me know and I'll do my due diligence. Oh, sorry, Gweebles, I just now saw your goodbye. Have a good sleep. And yeah, the replay will be on YouTube and on Twitch, whatever you prefer. So at least you'll see my good night when you come back later. Bye bye. Okay, that was it. Yeah, I still want to look into the specifics, but I did see that they promised not to change anything for existing creators. I think basically they're just trying to retroactively monetize their site better. So they're putting a bit of a pay gate behind a paywall in front of certain features of Patreon for new creators, but for those of us who have been using those features for a long time, they're not taking them away. Such as the one that stands out is the ability to hide your total pledge number from your profile. I still have that option. I don't really believe in turning it on, so I haven't used it, but they're putting that behind a subscription. It's like a premium Patreon membership level kind of thing. That's the extent of my understanding anyway. Wow guys, we've done it. We're at 20 viewers according to my restream dialogue right now, and that is a new record. We've never hit that 2-0 number before. Big thanks to everybody who's here. I put out a little promo thing with the Jungle Temple on Reddit, so I feel like some of you are from there. If so, welcome. the brushes I use are 90% self-made. These ones here are a compilation of brushes made by Borodante on YouTube. If you're into digital art, I highly recommend him. Look him up. I'll type his name into chat so that you can copy paste it if you please. Does some really cool art, and a couple of his techniques I've tried to incorporate myself. So I've got a lot of brushes from him, which I believe are adapted brushes from other artists. I guess Photoshop brushes are just like this resource that people pass around, and they change and modify with each person they pass through. Like a little Chinese whispers sort of game. But I have a bunch from him. I only use one or two of them that I really like. And then the other brush I use regularly, I made myself. And then I use this Photoshop default one. And I use a shockingly small number of brushes. I just use the ones that work and that I like. The ones that I make myself, we're gonna see them in action very soon, as the kind of plan I have in my head for the ice effect is going to lean heavily on one of the brushes I made. Let's go here next. I use these really funky high contrast colors for my own convenience. But I suppose I should be a little smarter about it so that it looks good for the stream. Since, you know, there's 20 people watching, you know, I feel like their experience is more important than my one person experience. So these blues and greens and oranges are really odd, especially if you just joined the stream now and have no idea what I'm drawing. It already looks good. Yeah, just odd colors. What I'll do, I'll pick some smarter colors. Let's get a vague feel of the eventual colors. This is going to be kind of a, mostly like a deep ice kind of color, like a glacial color. These are just base layers, and then a lot of light and shadow is going to adjust these later on. That's also made of ice in my mind. I'm going to keep this green just since I'm still working with it. Our wood will be much more muted than that. Kind of with a layer of frost kind of color. And then we do want these cliffs to be nice and dark and offer us a lot of contrast with the snow. So we'll keep that. But then the snow itself I want fairly overexposed on the base layer, because we're going to add a shadow to that, and that'll kind of drop the general light level. So let's zoom back in. Oh, so let's hit save for the first time today. That seems like a good idea. Alien temple, yeah, that's really what it looks like right now. It's still going to look a lot like an alien temple when we're done, but it's going to look a lot more like it's made of ice, and I think that will be fantasy enough to look like a fantasy map. But maybe I can get away with sharing this with the Starfinder crowd. See, it was all planned. Celestial Ice Temple. Yeah, save often. I should just make like a auto hotkey script which saves every 5 minutes if I forget to. This shape here is rather odd. I might try... You know what? I think I'll do. Bear with me. This may not work. So let's save. Be gone. Oh, but be gone in a different way, like that. That's nice and symmetrical, isn't it? Almost as if it's mirrored. This music is really something. Yes, this cheese. I can kind of muddle it a bit, the rotation and the occlusion mask. But I think it's fine as is. There we are. That looks much better than before. The shape I had before was really quite odd. Since we're just working on little runes now, let's reduce the brush size. I think this might be foolish putting the runes on this, because I imagine the runes as carved in, so they're not going to be a different color, they're going to be dark color. So let's isolate these. That's not how it works, is it, Ross? Ah, it's not many of them, we'll just paint them back in. I'm sure you all came here to see me do the same thing twice. Christmas themed PS1 game. Looks disgusting is what it looks like. Since we've finished, let's change it to a more icy or more natural color. There, that looks much better. I'm just going to use this as like a shadow layer specifically for the ice. Times. Well, we got a few more times to go yet. A few more runes to go. These runes may even benefit by me removing the line art around them. If they're just colors, like faint grooves in the ice. So we'll play with that later. So I guess they're important enough to warrant some lines around them. Just came here to be relaxed. Well, that's kind of my goal with this stream, just to give people a place to chill out since I'm doing some chill out work. Thought I'd put the option out there for you all to participate. And the upside is I get a lot of good ideas from you folk, such as these runes weren't my idea, but came from Twitch chat. And a bunch of fun ideas made their way into the Jungle Temple from Twitch chat. So yeah, it's really improving the maps, I think. Yeah, S-Man, Sam, and I think alike. I think before I was streaming myself, I used to watch other streams on YouTube, like long-form YouTube videos, as I was drawing. It's nice having something to listen to. Not sure if we'll keep this as the shadow for our box, but we'll see. Just pick a fun color for the next layer, which will be our ice. While painting minis, and I always wanted to get into painting minis. I used to watch a YouTube channel, what's it called? eBay Miniature Rescues, I think. And it's just so much fun. Looks like so much fun. I'm really terrible at painting anything with a real paintbrush though, so maybe it's not for me. But I actually ordered my very first Hero Forge miniatures not long ago. They should be arriving any day now, I think. For the longest time, like years and years, my players and I have just used little magnets as our character tokens. So I thought it's about time I treat my players to some custom-made tokens for their figurines for their characters. So oh hey Boomzer, welcome back. So my thoughts with the Hero Forge tokens, I got the white plastic ones, and I thought I'd kind of dip my toe in miniature painting by giving them a nice black / dark gray color wash, just to kind of bring out all the grooves and details on them, but otherwise not adding any colors to them. I think that'll be rather classy. And I'll see if miniature painting is at all compatible with me. Hey Red MSV, thanks for saying so. Glad you stopped by to say hello. All 7. Wow, that's quite a party. Yeah, I absolutely adore Hero Forge. I can just pour hours and hours into tweaking poses, especially tweaking the pose of the miniatures. Get the right amount of characterization in there. We're gonna plunge this part. Doesn't really make sense. But painting with this vibrant red right now, just because it's fun. It's not at all going to be the final color. Like a lake of lava at the bottom of a frozen lake. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess when magic's involved, who can say? Let's just separate this so we can fill that in. $11 to 12 people. Wow. I can't imagine how long it must take, like, between turns for each individual. But then again, my players, there's only 3 people in my D&D game, which is tiny compared to you two. But the turns are quite long because my players love to strategize. So I can't imagine having that many people. This here doesn't make too much sense. $40 to 60 minutes. But if everyone's into it and they're not waiting for their time to shine and they're enthusiastic about every member of the party, then I could see it working very well. Let's do a bit of snow shadow. Just try to keep the colors vaguely correct at this point, just so that new people joining the stream can look over here and see the vague plan of the battle map, the work in progress, rather than a red and green and pink and purple mess of high contrast colors. So we're really diving into the snow, so I've kind of defined some areas of shadow for our snow on the line art. Kind of the style we're going with here is following the line art very religiously so far, but we're going to also add a lot of kind of depth, glowy, shadowy depth to this ice. We're going to get fancy with that. Excuse me. A lot of yelling in a small library. Yeah, I've never known D&D to be a quiet game. Yeah, just gathering 3 players is enough work. Well, Venlin, we're gonna have the orange back probably in the next map, because we have a jungle temple and an ice temple, and I think temple number 3 is going to have to be a lava temple. We're going to play a lot with oranges and reds in that one, but this one's going to be rather a muted blue and like a glacial deep blue as well. Yeah, my idea with the temples is like the Pokemon stars. We'll have a water type and a grass type and a fire type. Bless you. And we have a nice fun little theme for this month. We have our underwater monster tokens, and we have a little trio of elemental temples. And maybe you can use them as like gates to the elemental planes. Like maybe these doors don't open up at all, but a big portal appears in the door frame instead. And that's the kind of battle map I like to draw, is like a multi-purpose battle map that you can use for whatever your particular campaign needs. I'd love it if we could take just this preview area and turn it into a time lapse. Once the entire coloring process is done, I think that would be awesome. Like a little GIF image. Like, there's got to be a way to do that. I can kind of think of a way to do that already. We'll just have this erratic red square flashing around. That was actually my method to making YouTube time lapses. A few years ago, when I was making time lapses regularly, I would blow this navigator window up to the entire screen size, and I would record that window. And create a time lapse from that. But it requires some forethought, and you can't duplicate this navigator window, unfortunately. So either I do it that way, or I actually use it and have it on stream. But like a little bite-sized GIF image can still be done, I think, in theory. Is there a preview window I can pull out? Nothing named preview. I think you might be thinking of the navigator window, Pyronide. It's kind of a dual purpose preview slash you can navigate with it like this. Mostly I use it as a preview. It helps me get the overall kind of composition right. Like in art school, you're taught to always take a couple steps back from the canvas and look at it from afar. But this little navigator window serves that purpose quite well. I can make as many as I want. I can pull out a preview. It can be done. Or blow me down. Is it in the window list? Unfortunately, I can't show you the dialogues and the menus from Photoshop because the method I'm using to stream this window, a window or view, maybe view. I'll have to Google it later, I think. It makes sense, yeah, to have... I can see a lot of uses coming from having different angles and whatnot. And also for time lapses. So it's got to be there somewhere, surely. Excuse the yawning. Got a little bit more work to do on the snow. Still doing the safe and easy work. Soon we're gonna get into some fancy rendering of multi-layered ice, which may be a long stream, depending on how quickly I can get it right. Now, what was my plan here? I guess just this is in shadow. I'm gonna throw some more texture on this snow as well, if it looks like it needs it later on. But looking good, looking good. I think we'll go for general shadow on our rock layer next. Still just doing boring color by number work so far. Oof, it always surprises me when it's so bright. Real dark. Wait a second, that's the wood layer. What are you up to, Russ? Let's box it down here. Okay. Window, arrange, new window. Hey, look at this. Never played around in this portion of Photoshop. Probably not the time and place for playing around with Photoshop, but I will look into that. I will. Yeah, the color is coming along. I guarantee the end product will be very different still, but our vague general colors are in. I know I want a near black rock face, and I know I want like a glacial blue ice. So we've got those two main color blocks in. I really like how three-dimensional this jetty looks, like the shadows and everything. Let's see how much that shadow adds to it. This is actually going to be in shadow, isn't it? Considering we have this huge structure on this side. Okay, we're going to jump into our kind of there's an official title for this kind of shadow. I always know it as ambient occlusion because that's what it's called in video game settings menu. But it's the shadow you get in the little creases and little nooks and crannies where the sunlight has a hard time reaching. But it isn't shadow. It isn't like a major shadow, it's just little minor shadows around the edges of things and in the creases between objects. What's that called? Some ice crystal formations on the mountain. I know we're going to put a layering of frost, but I'm going to steer clear of anything that deserves its own fine art. So we're going to kind of splash some frost and ice on the mountain, for sure. I just want to work with a bit more contrast than this black, so I think we're going to go back to that exciting red color. And we're going to make like a volcanic mountain brimming with lava, just so I can get these lines right. Or better. Cracked shadows. Yeah, I'm sure that's the official wording. Where the sun don't shine. It's on the tip of my tongue. I'll just go on calling it ambient occlusion. Get a window arranged in the bottom, say new window. Hang on, I'll have a look. If I press this button, it may mess up the stream a bit, so everyone brace yourself. Oh, no, fine. It's just giving us this. Okay, so I guess from here I can drag this navigator window elsewhere, and it won't mess up, it won't affect this navigator window. Is that right? Oh, drag this tab out. Yeah, okay. Gotcha. So if I put this, you can't see it, but if I put this over on my secondary monitor and I start coloring here, yeah, gotcha. Worked beautifully. Thanks Venlin and Boomzer for figuring that out together. Mission accomplished. Nice. So it's a little late in the work process now to make a time lapse, but I'm gonna think of something to do with that secondary view. At the very least, it's super useful because I mentioned when I was working on the tokens, when I zoom in really close like this and nobody can tell what on earth I'm looking at, it would be nice to have a more zoomed out preview over there, so that when I'm working on the individual hand of an individual token, you can see the token in whole up here. And I could definitely use this preview window for that. I've got some work to do with Streamlabs to get it recording this tablet properly. Right now I have it plugged into my secondary graphics card, which Streamlabs can't detect unless I tell it to record the Photoshop window rather than the display. So that's why you can't see when I open up this menu here, browsing a menu, but you can't see it. And when I edit one of these colors, you can't see the dialogue that I'm using. There's a little hack I can do with my webcam software, but it also brands my stream. It puts a big watermark in the corner, which is super frustrating. So I don't want to use the webcam. Plus I'm pretty sure I can't mask the actual webcam window with the webcam software, so I've pretty much written that method off. But yeah, I'd like to incorporate that view number 2 into the stream, like an improved version of this navigator window. So thanks guys. In fact, I suppose I could make another scene in Streamlabs and just plonk it over here. Yeah, I'm thinking already of ways I can do it. Fancy. Well, I've got my NVIDIA graphics card, which is the workhorse of the computer, and then I have the built-in, I think it's attached to the motherboard, the Intel one. So this Cintiq's plugged into the Intel, and then the NVIDIA one is used for other stuff. So it's not really a fancy graphics card, it's just the built-in one. It's just because I ran out of HDMI ports, so this one had to plug into the secondary one. But if I do some cable management, there might be a secondary port on the front of the case. This is all like when I was talking about stream improvements that I'll work on next month. This is one of the things, the primary things I want to figure out, is how to properly capture this display so that you can see everything, and so that I can like drag down reference images and show you guys what I'm looking at. Right now I can't do that. The lava looks like a claw. Yeah, this lava is very temporary. It might be a good place to sneak in like our ice, have some ice build up between the stones. That's what we might use this color block for. But the main intention is as a ambient occlusion kind of shadow layer. I gotta figure out what that is called. Gotta keep up with the coffee intake too. Yeah, these tablets are fussy little things. Sometimes this one just turns off my angle. What's the word? The angle sensor of the stylus. It just stops listening to the angle. And then later on, it just starts working again. Tilt sensitivity, that's the one. Yeah. See you, Red MSV, thanks for tuning in. Some ore types within the cracks. Yeah, definitely. We could transform this color layer we're working on into a color group, and then we can put ore here and ice here and shadow here and use it for all sorts of things. We'll see what works later on, because we don't want to sacrifice the overall composition. Like if we were to keep this red, I feel like it draws too much attention to the mountainside when the real focus of the map is down here. We may still try putting a creature beneath the ice. That'll be a nice focal point. Like a frozen dragon was the popular idea on the stream yesterday. Maybe that's why, the townspeople have sent you to this temple, is to repair whatever magic seal broke the ice, and that whatever monster is down there is stirring, waking up. Do I have a Discord server? Not yet, no. That's been on my to-do list for a while. I'm rather a noob with Discord, so I haven't yet dove into it, but I do want to. Especially after seeing how friendly and civil everyone is on Twitch chat. I feel like a Discord server is the next natural progression. Must be nice just to announce there and not have to take to Twitter and Facebook every time. Mammoths. I wonder if mammoth might be a hard shape to pull off as like a blurry form beneath the ice. Like a dragon would be very distinct. You could have a big wing shape and a big tail, but a mammoth is kind of a big fur ball. Plus, I feel like mammoths stirring from the ice isn't really a scary thing. It's kind of just a natural wonder. Whereas a dragon, a white dragon stirring from its icy slumber, that's a threat. But again, we'll see if that putting anything down there throws off the composition. It might be nicely balanced with having the detail on the platform and having some breathing room down in the icy lake. some kind of demonic form. We'll just have like a giant face staring up with glowing eyes. How about that? Like a Titanic-sized humanoid face. That would be terrifying. The other thing I consider when I'm drawing my maps is I don't want to kind of level gate the maps. Like if there's a huge campaign ending threat present on the map, then it's only going to be useful to people who are running adventures for high level parties. So I tend to keep my maps mostly mundane so that anyone can use them. And if there is a big campaign ending demon beneath the ice, then that's something the DM can get away with just describing. But I do like the idea. Perhaps that'll be a whole map concept by itself, is demons slumber. It's a frozen lake with a giant face waking up beneath it. But I think whatever endgame boss is on this map will be behind the door, not so much beneath the ice. Kind of makes sense. These crack shadows, these probably be... yeah, they will be the darkest shadows on the mountain, because we're gonna... depends which direction I ultimately decide the light's coming from. We've kind of decided down here which way the light's coming from, but there will be some larger areas of shadow on this mountainside. Larger areas, yes, but not darker areas. These crack shadows within the larger shadow areas will be the darkest of all. Right now we're just coloring with lava red so that I can more easily stay within the lines. It's quite interesting having a glow within the cracks of the rocks. Like this might be a concept we play with in a future map, maybe even tomorrow's map if we're doing a fire temple. I quite like that look. Maybe we will do that tomorrow. I feel like we have to fill this area in. Pirate Knight on YouTube says, beneath the ice, one white dragon, the end boss behind the door, two white dragons. Classic. And of course the party will be exhausted after that first one, so it'll be a real fight after that. Oh yeah, some tusks coming out the ice, that would be sweet. Especially if we went with like a colossal creature and we just had like a rib cage poking through the ice, like a number of ribs kind of forming a pathway. Yeah, that's a nice idea. Maybe some of these good ideas will just transfer into tomorrow's map, and tomorrow's map will be a volcano with glowing cracks in the mountainside and a colossal creature's rib cage leading up to its door. You know, that dungeon I was talking about that my players ran through, that I was talking about earlier in the stream, that was actually a dungeon set on the side of a volcano, so it's a pity I didn't draw this map earlier. I could have actually used it. Okay, Venlin, I will do. I imagine I will. I'll probably read a crash course guide on how to set up Discord, but if I have any questions, I'll hit you up. What's a goristro? I've never heard that word before. Yeah, I imagine it is easy. Most of these things are super simple. Like, setting up Twitch was super duper simple. They make things very user-friendly these days. Okay, are we done with our cracks? Let's give them an intelligent color. Something around there for now. Hit the save button. Hashtag remember to save. Interesting. I kind of wish we put more line art, just like jags in the ice, but that's alright. It's a siege demon. Oh, that conjures up some fun imagery. Okay, I think next we're going to block in the approximation of a general shadow. This is going to be super rough and not respect the line art in any way. And then once we've defined the areas, we'll actually do a proper layer. So, using our tiny little jetty as a guide, in my mind, the sun is pretty much coming this way. This is where the real fun stuff begins. Just working with a single shade of shadow at this point. I do realize that certain angles will be lighter than others, but this would kind of be like this. Just a straight line, right? Maybe like that? It's a little bit confusing. I am anything but a savant at shadows. I just mess around until something looks decent. Like even do like that, maybe. Bring that ice forward. I'll do my best. You know, it would be quite cool if we had the sun coming from top left. Then we could kind of cast a big shadow like this. Then we can treat these shadows on the snow as our ambient shadows like we have in the rocks. And then have a much larger shadow over the top. Quite like that. Plus, gives us a lot more diagonal kind of composition, which I like. Much more interesting. And plus, it will let us put some large shadows on the rock face, whereas if we had our sun coming from this way, it'd be shining directly on the rock face, and that would be it means we wouldn't have many large shadow forms in here, which would be rather boring. Thanks for stopping by, Kami Goddess. The multiple times you have stopped by. Hope to see you another day, and have a good sleep. So I think I'm going to muck around and see if this works well. That means all of this is going to be in shadow. Yeah, right, so big blocks of shapes. Like, that's the secret to art that looks good, is shapes that look good, and shapes within shapes that look good, and just working with good shapes. So we're going to try and make a nice shape out of our shadow. Goodness gracious, I guess I'm going to get a little complex for this edge. Unless we really lengthen the shadow like this. Is that too... Are we cheating a bit if we do this? Let me just keep it that way for now, guys. I'm not entirely settled upon it. Yeah, you're right. The jungle shadow also had a very long, maybe not long, but a very distinct large shadow. There's a very important visual component to it. So here we'll have some shapes in the rocks as the platform wraps around. We have a little shadow on the gate, perhaps, just a little one. Probably not, in fact. Like this might be in shadow. This face here will be in light, but like this, perhaps in shadow. Just playing with very rough shapes still. Yeah, quite like that. Shadow on the ice is going to be much more complex than just this flat shadow. It's going to have, well, it's going to be more complex. I suppose this whole staircase would be in a faint shadow. Maybe. Coming from above. The shadow is useful since it gives us a clear edge between the traversable terrain and the slope. Oh, Ben, sorry. I am on Discord already, but I may keep my existing account as like a private account that I use amongst friends, and then have a separate business account. We'll see. Do a separate 2 minutes at top account. One of my vague plans when it comes to turning this into ice will be to use a lot of gradients to get like a glow, like a semi-transparent glow to it, kind of like that. So yeah, so it looks as if there's a whole bunch of particles and stuff that the light's landing on within the form. It's pretty much as easy as that. It's just strategically using gradient tool. Like we could throw another one, just a big old one here to give us this kind of form. So I'm going to do that more intelligently in a bit. Hey, thanks your DMJ for subscribing. I see it was an hour ago, but I've only just now seen it. Belated thank you. But I'm pretty happy with this. Let me look at it for a bit. You know, actually I've kind of neglected this line here. Like that. And then like much of this is gonna be in shadow. Now this shadow isn't gonna be stark color block, and in fact let me reduce this a bit so we can get a feel for what it will look like later. Then we'll have our gate in shadow, unfortunately, rather unfortunately, since we want that to be a focal point. But we can also reduce that effect by giving a little spotlight, a little glow along the edge. And if there's a little glow right here, then that will let us do a nice icy effect here, something like that later on. So I think we'll keep it. Just feeling out where the shadow's falling. I quite like this look. I mean, it makes me feel cold when I see this shadow within an already icy map. So if I can make myself feel cold looking at this map, then mission accomplished. And I think a dark shadow will do a good job of that. And I'm not sure, right now we have a very 45-degree angle on the shadow. But I may I may adjust that angle just so we don't have such a precise mathematical look to it. And the shadow will kind of dissipate. And we also get to cast more light on our platform. So we'll have a healthy amount of shadow up here, but not the whole shebang. How do I feel about this? "22 viewers, we're creeping up to higher and higher records. Thanks, everyone." I should also keep up on my water consumption. So as a thumbnail of a map, I rather like the composition of this one. And I think the shadows make a lot of sense. There's still bits and pieces that don't make sense, but well, in fact, if this mountainside is casting the shadow here, then it's not going to be a precise line. It's going to be rather mountainous, right? Like following this kind of line here. Oh, rock there. Whereas this line is going to be straight. And it really complements the shift of perspective, doesn't it? You can see how much more depth it has with the shadow. And then of course as it gets further from kind of the touch point, it's gonna kind of dither out. But we'll do that better later. Yeah, the long shadows make me cold. I'm just imagining sitting down here on this jetty, shivering with a strong wind coming in from this way. Yeah, it looks like the sun's going down, right, with such a long shadow. Which might help with the sense of urgency. I like having urgency on my battle maps. Maybe this one should be in the light for the most part. Yeah. Does that make any sense for that to be in the light? Maybe not. Maybe what we need is this kind of light. What will be interesting is this ice, the snow on top of the ice, casting a shadow on like the interior of the ice. That's going to be interesting. Like, If I can find my ice layer, there it is. Let me just do a little bit of playing around here. It's going to look a little something like this. You can see the depth that's creeping out as we do that. Let me go back a bit just to rough up the shapes. There's a very quick and dirty example. Something like a bird, yeah, that'd be fun. I think with such long shadows, having the shadow of a bird would look a little something like this. It's like a blurry, vague shape since it's stretched out by how low in the sky the sun is. So we'll keep the shadows super simple, I think, because we're going to have a lot of detail in the play of the light in the ice, so our big shadows will not go wild with. Just have to get the vague shapes right before we commit. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this opportunity for a little toilet break, and when I come back, I'm going to look at this with some fresh eyeballs and immediately see what needs changing. So let me save it. Let me save every now and then. And I'm going to mute my microphone and be right back in less than 2 minutes. So don't go anywhere, guys. Be right back. Okay, we're back. Please excuse me, I'm still a little bit on break. Have to catch this Snorlax real fast. But it occurred to me while I was away, I should make a habit of flipping this canvas every now and then. Because that's the easiest way to get a new perspective on the piece. When you've been staring at it for hours, it's hard to see what's wrong with it. Hey Calrazia! Yeah, thanks for joining us. We've still got a while to go. I've probably got another hour in me before I need to eat something. I just had a little snack, but starting to crave the food. So when I flip it, yeah, let's work with it flipped just for a bit. So for Calrazia and anyone else who might just be tuning in now, we're still working on like a big work in progress shadow layer that's very quick and dirty and disgusting. And soon enough we're gonna start kind of finalizing these shadows. Right now they're just very sketchy and yuck. Maybe we should have a little bump here. I wonder if we should bother with a shadow for these betties. Well, I guess only one of them needs a shadow. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Just need to be smarter about it. It's like getting colder and colder. Maybe it's because I'm drawing cold stuff, but dang, it's chilly. Put a shadow here, it implies that the mountain kind of loops around this way, which is okay. Now I wonder if we shade this one in, if that will improve or worsen the composition. I preferred it before. We're going to do that. Okay, pretty happy with this shadow. So let's start tidying it up. None of the colors are final, by the way, for people who are new here. They're all just approximate right now, kind of work in progress colors. And we're going to choose some, when all the shadows and all the other little elements are down, that's when we're going to choose some nice colors that play well together. Like this purple huge shadow doesn't quite work. It's not quite what I want, in fact. suppose what we would have on this side would be more of this kind of shape, where the shadow... Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't transition from light to dark at the bottom of the cliff face. That doesn't make any sense. It would be at some point up the cliff face. And I get to choose it rather arbitrarily, since we can't see the side of the mountain that's casting the shadow. It's as tall or as short as we need it to be. And it's a good opportunity to kind of determine the shape of these rocks. They were a bit flat before, but now we get to sculpt them. We may not even use this shadow whatsoever on the ice. We may make a special ice shadow layer. But for now, I mean, later on, if we go that route, I can just convert it. So I am going to spend time on it now. So there's a lot more fun stuff to do with the ice shadow than just blocking it in like this. Whereas for mountains, for this opaque surface, the shadow is pretty much done now. We might add some areas of kind of half shadow, but I quite like the stark shadow. I'm just looking here and I don't like the shape. We have this very vertical shape, so I might obliterate some of this and turn it into a more interesting shape that goes around like this. That looks better, I think. Maybe even all this, and then we'll turn it into two shapes. Very long shadows, huh? Yeah, Pyronite, that's a good idea. It's for like specks and particles within the ice. I like that. Even just adding like a noise filter to this. What am I looking at here? This is a gradient. That's the word I was looking for. That would do well. Oh, that's on our ice layer. Cool. I was worried we might have to erase that, but it's all right. Just trying to match up this angle and that angle, approximately. And with this snow surface, we can insert some form to the snowy surface. This music won't do. It makes me feel like I'm at the gym. I suppose this would also be in shadow. And I've neglected that earlier, didn't I? Of course, it'll be in less shadow. Than this side, just because of the angle. But for now, we're just working with a big shadowed block. Probably all these shadows contacting the ice won't have a clear edge to them at all, but be rather blurred. And then of course the inside of the boats, that'll cast a shadow. Let's zoom in for that. Smaller brush please. Smaller still please. Soon we're going to have that problem again where the sun goes down and the exposure of my webcam goes all funky. Getting a hint at an edge to these boards, give them a bit of body. Not all of them, but certain ones. These steps too would be casting shadows on themselves. And then like with this mountain also be casting a shadow on this edge. Probably not at this side. I'm thinking like something here. No. But we can suggest add a slight ridge now. If we want to. I like it. Now I'll do the ice shadow eventually. Yeah, colder. Pushing more into the icy colors, like blues. Right now I have my general shadow is just like a purple, but the ice itself will have a different hue to it, since the light's going to be bouncing around inside the icy forms. It's going to be different, and basically I'm just going to play around with it until I get something I like. Okay, we have another boat to work with down here. Hello, new viewer on YouTube. I don't know what that says, sorry, but I appreciate the interaction. I suppose this shadow here would be rather long. Hey, Mr. Important Man. I thought you were Mr. Important Guy previously, or am I remembering wrong? But welcome back to the stream. Come at a good time. We're kind of just jumping into the interesting stuff. Shadows and light. I thought so. For a calm music track, this music track isn't very calm. Like I feel like we're getting ready for a mosh pit right now. Thanks, Carl Razia. Have a good work. I hope to catch you next time. Oh yes, Mr. Important Man guy. This is kind of a zoomed out view, which I guess you can see over here. But we're still working on tidying up the shadows, since we put in a big quick and dirty one. And I figured we're just going to convert that, tidy it up. This is our box for magical MacGuffins. Or sacrifices, or whatever goes on this icy temple. Okay, that's some good work, Pyronite. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Mr. Reportman, we got subscriptions now. I think that's a new thing. Thanks for following. Yeah. Or at least the widget is definitely new. The stream's changing, evolving bit by bit. Yeah, okay, I think let's flip it again. Still looks decent. Oh, I'm out of coffee. That's probably for the best. I think it's time to jump into the ice. See the difference that shadow makes. In fact, it's occurred to me this line here should probably be a different angle. Okay, we still need some tidying up over here. What I'll do today is we'll jump into rendering the ice, do the best that we can, and then call it quits. I'll have a nice rest tonight, and then first thing tomorrow I'll have another look at it and see what needs changing. So we've still got another, I've got another half an hour or so, and let's just have some fun with this ice. I also want to add a whole bunch of like splintering cracks coming out of this chasm. That's going to be a lot of fun. But for now, let's just get a. Ooh, that's funky. That's our draft layer. Now, I'm going to isolate the ice. Oh right, yeah, we have 2 ice layers, don't we? So we need another one of those. Duplicate. And let's make an effort at getting this ice right. It's my other layer. Perhaps I should have just put all of this on the same, but you know what, we'll start down here with our lake. Hello, thanks for joining us. I can't read your name unfortunately, but I could say hello. So we're going to work on this section first, and I think I'll start. We need to have some blurring over here. This is going to be a bit tricky. There may be a better way to do this. We'll see. Also, I've kind of screwed up our boat. Rather like that. Let's fix up our boat real quick. And our general ice layer. Or I forget. So there's two components so far. We have our hard shadow and our subsurface shadow. We can work with these separately. Let's do some subsurface shadow work. And basically this shadow is cast by the snow on top of the ice. And it has a very indistinct form because there's a lot of light bouncing around within the ice and all the particles in there. I suppose this boat might leave a very small one too. I'm just using the gradient, like a radial gradient. For this. Now I suppose this ice structure would also cast its own shadow, though a more faint one because it's semi-transparent. Hi, g'day. Is it Riss or Rise? I'm very sorry. Bad with names, but good to hear you're using the maps. I think you probably used the Hungering Pit. It had like a purple color scheme. That was a good one. So I'm looking mostly at the thumbnail here, and we're getting a lot of... It's like just with this one tool we're adding so much depth to the frozen lake. But I'm glad it looks good so far because we haven't added any fancy stuff yet. So if it looks good now, it's going to look great with fancy stuff. This needs to be much duller and also more blue. You know, like lake ice like this tends to also be like shades of grey. Let me get some reference images. Yeah, it's like a very grey, green, blue. And it's actually surprisingly dark. Surprisingly dark. below the surface. That's got like a frosting of white on top, and then it's like black underneath with like spider webs of white cracks going all in between it. So this is... Let's play around with that. What we'll do, we'll save and we'll duplicate. We'll see if we can improve upon this on this layer. So this is kind of the sun glare, what I'm playing with now. So this will be quite bright and quite white, but this stuff, this will be rather a deep black, blue-green kind of, like all the way down here. We have some, we get to change what we want to change since it's not a real life drawing. So what layer is that? Oh, that crack has its own thing. Let's just disable that for now. It's fine as is. And then the shadow cast on it. We're going to be very... probably just going to be the ambient kind of shadow color. Ooh. Grizzly photo. I don't like want to push the saturation of these colors too. We get to do that since we're doing artsy-fartsy stuff. Basically, I just want to make this area look cold and uninviting. I think somewhere around here, but what we can also do is carve this up and just kind of add an element of a gradient in there. You can do the same thing here. Kind of this shape. But keep a large amount of shadow for that boat. How does that look? That makes sense. Probably more shadow for the rowing boat, isn't there? Yeah, that'll do. This ice form here is kind of distracting me, so I think I'm gonna transmogrify this into stone. Just so I can think about this lake in isolation. Are we moving in the right direction? I'd like that coloration. Although we do want a very white look. This is kind of, we've entered the part of the stream where I deliberate endlessly. I suppose it's reflecting the color of the sky, if it's rather overcast. come back to that. And in fact, I'm going to come back here next. With this shape. Get the general colors right, and then this shadow, like I teased before, it's kind of with this area. Plus this area. Throw in part of the light that's shining through the icy structure. It's going to be like a gradient spreading out that way. Like that, yeah. We need it on this side too. Not too worried about losing these little ridge lines. That's all right. Probably like one here and a separate one here. We're getting a real transparent effect just with this step. I also want to to the opposite effect, kind of less so here. Look better if we get this color right. So I like this purplish kind of ice. Looks very cold in the shadow areas, which is kind of the effect we're going for. Let's copy that over to our lake ice too. So we're getting there, we're making good progress. Already it looks very transparent. Now I'm thinking some highlights. Gonna call it quits soon enough because I still want to go for a walk today. And sun, there's like a nice sunset outside right now. And I think my eyeballs are just a bit fatigued of this map because when things stop coming naturally, that's kind of when it's time to call it quits. And then the next day, usually I just get back into the flow of things. But I do like where we are at. It's time for an image flip. I can remember where that is. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm on the western coast, bad lucks bro, so still a bit of light left in the day. You know what, I think maybe in addition to this layer we need some more darkness. Well, I can make that shine brighter if I reduce this color. Give it that. The kind of glacial green is what I intend. So glacial green, it kind of transitions from green into a deep blue. So let's try and get this deep blue about right. Perhaps that's a bit too green. I also don't want it to be too bright like this, too cartoony. Like I imagine there's something dangerous living in here. And I want to have that kind of feeling in the map. That's why I've got like a gray down here. Some Zelda music. Yeah, we've definitely entered the part of the work process where I fuss endlessly over colors and opacities and other effects. Changes are so slight. Oh yeah, I forgot, so we put this little edge light here so that we could cast some... Is it specular lighting? Is that what I'm doing here? It's like some... Because it's transparent form, the light kind of invades that space. We have a bit of a lens flare effect right here in our glow area. I like that. We need to dive in again into the shadow. Okay, well here's what we're going to do. I'm going to copy this color, take it down below this layer, and give these hard edges slash rims slash whatever they are. Like I imagine they're a denser ice, so they're going to cast the shadow like that. Thanks, Billy Hollywood. I appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoy the content. I need to push these shadows. We'll see. When I come back tomorrow, the answers will be immediately obvious. Down here, they look a bit bright. Thanks for tuning in, Jack. Have a good one. Well, the question is, have we made improvements here? Yeah. And again, this color scheme, though rather cartoonish, does play nicely with saturation in here. Thanks, Wish Guys. Have a good sleep. Ice is hard. Yeah, I'm going to be fussing with it for a long time. We may even take a step back to this stage and go with a more cartoony look. Maybe we can have more fun that way. I think we will shift the whole thing into teal spectrum again. It's magical ice after all. Maybe whatever color we really need. But I do like the way this greenish color contrasts this reddish color. So I think we'll keep that. So we've taken elements from both. This is an improvement. That's good, that's good. Heading in the right direction. That's the main thing. Hey Bobicus, yeah, the secret is just to hide your clock behind the webcam where you can't see it, and keep yourself hydrated, I guess. That's all it is. Him. But it is just about time to turn in. I've been talking about it for a while, but oh, I've also lost the shadow on this boat. That's a pity. We still have that over here. No, we'll just have to redo that tomorrow. No worries. Yeah. This is not what I would classify as calm music. I am on the chill station. I guess it's pretty chill for your usual Twitch stream. We're gonna push into cartoony colors because I want to. Because ice is more fun when it's high saturation. And like I said, it's magical ice. We can make it red if we wanted to. Big lake of frozen blood. Come a long way from with these shadows, haven't we? Yeah, I feel like this is just a bit too high contrast, so we're gonna calm you down. We can do some fun stuff down here, perhaps. Pretty fun. Looks super fancy, doesn't it? But if I'm gonna do that, let's try and be smarter about it. Give it an interesting shape, doesn't it? I think that's going to be the secret to getting this ice right. Sneaking little fancy highlights in. In fact, almost sure of it. Like right here, just not quite so bright. the whole thing is absorbing and capturing the light inside it. Precise. So it's going to have this glow even in the darkest shadows. Perhaps not so bright as that, but it'll be there. Try and get this better. Okay, really getting there. I think we'll bring back our highlight layer. I'm just going to start again with it, and I might... What button did I press? There's a hotkey for flipping the canvas. Oh no, all I did was scroll down, never mind. That's the wrong color. But it is interesting with such high contrast, isn't it? Maybe we've stumbled upon the solution. There's some uber high contrast. That's pretty interesting. Looks like overexposed. It's very interesting, isn't it? Because we're going to have that white snow anyway, so we're going to have some stark whites. Keep it for now. Just fiddle a teeny bit with hue. In fact, we're moving in the right direction, everyone. Surprised there's still 21 viewers, considering I'm just doing the same thing and changing my mind, going back and forth like that. But we're getting somewhere. These borders have basically no purpose now, unless we want to really brighten them. Oh, in fact, they should be above here. So we can use them as just a different shade of ice. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Looks pretty good. They should probably be the lightest of all. I just want more than one shade of blue. And it's imperative that we get this color right. Oh, I can turn that down. Yeah, I turned it up for that fun Zelda track, but now it's playing some more exciting stuff. No worries. And what we need to is down here on our ice lake. Need to splash in that same highlight. Same kind of overexposed stuff. No, not for the whole thing. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. We'll see what it looks like. I'm thinking just like here. The color's obviously a bit wrong. this color we have here. So it's sorry, punched the microphone, my bad. I like this color. I think we will borrow it for our ice form. 70%. Okay, well, let's use it, but not for 100% of the thing. This is kind of like what we have to do. Just reveal some of that deep ice color coming out in the shadows. Okay, now we just need to play with that hue. I'm gonna copy this one. Doesn't that look transparent? Too transparent. Right about there. Yeah, just sort of aimlessly tweaking here, which is a good sign. I need a break. But it does look pretty good in that tiny little Twitch thumbnail, so I think we're doing well. I'm just need some more tweaking when I have a fresh pair of eyeballs, rested pair of eyeballs. So I'm gonna hit the save button for only the third time today. Oh, this is the copy, so I have to give me one moment. But I suppose I'll take this time to thank you all for tuning in. We've broken new ground today, 22 consecutive watches. That's unprecedented. Here's a little preview of the progress we've made on the color. I think we could make this color a bit more saturated down here. Perhaps we don't need this highlight. Perhaps it just needs to be a soft light instead of a hard light. Yeah, I prefer that. And we're still going to add some interesting cracks and fissures, breaking apart from this central crevasse. Still a lot of work left to do, but I'll be back tomorrow to do that. Glad you like it. It does look pretty good on this. I'm like looking at the navigator window in my Twitch preview, so it's extra small thumbnail size, and the thumbnail looks good, the composition looks good, and the colors look good too. It's just tweaking, and then those spidery cracks that I need to do, and I'm sure I'll fiddle with it for a few hours as well. So, but that'll do for today. So I just want to thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed yourself and you'd like to join us again for the remainder, please hit the follow button on Twitch and you'll be notified when we go live. And I'll be back when it's daytime again and I have some natural light on my face. So, thanks everyone, and I'll catch you later. Oh, and I need to remember from now on to transition to this screen, as it's all of these wonderful patrons that make these streams and these maps possible. So I'm just gonna hang it here for 10 to 15 seconds before I end the stream. So big thank you. Glad you all enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the subscriptions, everyone who I forgot to mention, and the follows. All the progress we made towards our goal of 500 followers. And that's about as much as my voice box can take for today. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all of the ideas and keeping me company as I'm drawing. Be back tomorrow to finish off this ice temple map. See you then.